Hi everybody, and maybe the third time will be the charm. As you can see, I am not live. Apparently the YouTube gremlins have been at it again. The first time I tried this was on a live stream, and we got cut off, and so we did a restart, and about 39 minutes in, my computer crashed, which of course scared the heck out of me because it is an older system, and I cannot actually replace it, so or cannot afford to replace it right now. And so so it took me a while to verify that that no permanent damage had been done. It did come right back up. Windows did restore itself, and but apparently I had overloaded the memory, the RAM, and it caused the system to fail. So that is the first time it has happened on this particular computer, but a failure like that should always be taken seriously, and hopefully, keeping my fingers crossed, it will let me continue on, at least on a pre-recorded video. So while we were gone, or while I was gone, I did take the opportunity to put a second coat of Inktense on my little Bohemian Waxwing. And I used all the same colors as before in all the same places. I just sort of made them a little bit richer, a little bit darker, added a little more depth of color. And while it's not totally perfect yet, the final bit of editing on it, or, you know, coloring on it, will be done with Prismacolors. It is pretty darn good, at least for a very good start. In other words, I would actually let it go out of the studio into film like this, but why, when I could in fact make it perfect with just a little bit of Prismacolor correction. And so I thought that I would go ahead and just show you a little bit of that before I continue coloring on. And I do have my Prismacolors out, but that is a really big set to be doing in a relatively tight space. So I think I'm going to go ahead and grab out my Black Widows, and because these are a smaller set and easier to manage. I have the 150 set of Prismas, but I like to keep them in the case. So in this case, I'm just choosing the Black Widow pencil, which is the BW111, and I'm just going to darken up a little bit the very tips of these wings down here, just so that the hand-drawn lines don't show quite as much. And one thing about it, when you go about this, sort of after the fact like this, it goes really fast and it's really easy to do. And so then I can, yeah. See, that's all I really needed to do for those little wingtips. And they look 100% better. So I'm going to work in just a tiny bit of this to make those harsh transitions between the lighter gray and the darker gray a little bit less noticeable. just changing up the weight. And so, you know, just little tiny twists and tweaks you can always do with a colored pencil. Other than that, I mean, I think that they're fine the way they are. And I think I'll just leave him alone. I'm really quite happy with the way he looks right now. So the trick with coloring, of course, is to get it to a point where you like it, and then don't mess with it anymore. So that we don't ruin our colorings by over attention. And I did think that I would go ahead and continue coloring on and just sort of chat a little bit about this. By now, those of you who watched the game, I did not. I had it on in the background. So I am aware that the New England Patriots did just win their 6th Super Bowl with Tom Brady at the helm. So congratulations to Mr. Brady for his stellar achievement. Just adding a little bit of color onto a couple that I'm not super satisfied yet with the depth of color. And so that's kind of cool. I did not watch the halftime show. I watched a few of the ads, but so many previews have been done of the ads in a lot of different places that I didn't feel that it was necessary to watch all the ads. Plus, I'm not really an advertising person anyway. I have a tendency to tune out ads until about the 9th time that I've seen them, at which point then I finally register, oh, that's an ad. Because the ads, when the ads come on, that's when I turn back to the computer and continue doing whatever I was doing. I'm probably not an advertising executive's ideal target, since I don't really pay attention to them. Anyway, I did watch back both the first part of this video, during the first part of the live, and read all the chat, and then I also changing the focus. I also realized that I should be calling out colors, and so I am working right now. These red berries are being done with the cherry, which is number 0510, 510, and the Shiraz, which is 0600, so 510 and 600 in the Inktense, the Derwent Inktense series, which are water-soluble ink pencils. And so I noticed that. I also noticed that once again, Cindy888, you came in, and I saw you. I did not see you at the time, but I know that I have a history of not saying hello to you, so I want to let you know that I did see that you came in, and hello. Thank you, Belinda, for attending. I am so sorry that I did not see your questions. If you happen to watch this back and are looking for the Easter egg again, it is in the first video, the first one before I had to do the restart. And it's actually in there twice, so I believe that you should still be able to access it. And for those of you who might be watching this one, who didn't watch the others, if you don't know what an Easter egg is, you'll have to go watch. But trust me, it's a good thing. And actually, Easter eggs are special coupons exclusively to the watchers, and they're usually good for 48 hours after the stream. So if you are watching this and it's 48 hours after my original live stream, so before Tuesday night, the 6th, I believe, Tuesday night the 5th, there's a coupon for you to use in my Etsy store. But you do have to go find it. And, okay, so there was that. Then, on the greens that I was working on for these leaves up here, I believe that I had the fern and the apple green. And they're okay colors. I would probably change it up if I were going to select again, but since I've started with these, I might as well continue with them. And I just sort of add a little in. Inktense goes a long way, so you don't have to be perfect with it because it is water soluble and you can sort of move it around. In this case, it's more of a just sort of going for a mottled leaf color because these are fairly small spaces. So I'm going for that. And then I think that one of the things that I was working on when the stream so abruptly quit was this edge piece. Originally I started out using, in the Inktense, I used tan on the inside, and tan is the 1720, and then I used baked earth on the outside, and it is 1800. But I was not entirely happy with that. I did leave those two colors there, and then I went around the outside edge instead with the dark chocolate. So I went around inside, just a very thin coat, inside and outside, and then I wet it, wet the center first, and then wet the edges, and it sort of gave it a more dimensional feel, darkened it up so that it made it different than the branch. Oh, and that's the other thing that I changed. On the branch, I had done the same kind of color mix as I'd done over here. I had done the tan to the inside, and through a happy accident, I had done willow mostly, but a little bit of the baked earth here. And so I left the willow where it was, and that is, willow is pencil number 1900, and instead I darkened up this side by using the color oak, which is number 1730. So I ran oak down the inside and feathered it out a little bit and then got it wet. And so that is why this has a darker underside, because the light is sort of facing our bird this way, and so it would light up this part of the branch, leaving the underside a little bit darker. So that should catch up on all the colors. Then over here, in the sample drawing, which is the one that was colored for my cover, which is this one, as you can see, they used blue along the outside, and I am using instead, I've decided to go with an emerald green, and for that I am using the Ionian green, which is the 1320, in the darkest areas here. So down here where they all sort of mush together, I'm just putting in a little bit of the darker green. And, actually, that was sort of medium-handed. And then this is the beach green, which is number 1510. And with it, I'm just putting it just like this. Once again, sort of medium-handed. And then the area in the middle is where the two are going to meet. And so for this part, I am going to wet the middle first. Once again, keeping in mind that this is very absorbent Create Space paper. And of course, Create Space paper isn't really anymore. Now we've got KDP paper, and it is slightly better. But I've had this book for when I first published this book, it was under Create Space, so it was before we got the bit of a paper upgrade from Amazon. So this is why this one is a little more difficult than some of my other books, which have been printed post KDP transfer. So but we make it work. You can watercolor in Create Space paper or use water mediums. I do it all the time. I've used watercolors, I've used Neos, Inktense, I've used watercolor markers, or water-based markers. It can be done. You just have to be light-handed, and you can't scrub. You've got to be willing to brush in one direction or the other, but not back and forth. And you'll be fine. So I thought I would just continue on now that you've seen all of the little parts, and maybe just yak at you, or not yak, but talk and all of that. I was of course discussing my fascination in the group. I was discussing my fascination with a channel called Curiosity Inc. And there are some great videos on that channel. A young man with a eye for antique items, that he has a shop in Edmonton, Canada, and he's one of those guys, who was he was probably the cute nerd in high school, the one who all the girls were after because he was cool in an oddball sense. Drove he was the guy who drove the classic Packard instead of a normal car, that you would expect a teenager to drive. Or, you can tell he's just one of those who's been in the garage working on things his entire life, and yet he was in the television and film industry, in the behind the camera role, which was his career before he started doing what he does now. He was actually a location manager, which I think would be a fascinating job, and it gave him a great background for what he does now, which is find very cool things and then find them a forever home. Restores them, rescues them is really what he does. He rescues them from being lost forever. And he seems to be just a very nice fellow. He helped a homeless man, and that was a big deal. It was in a lot of the newspapers and on television and stuff like that. But he also helped a man get a classic Royal 1939 McLaughlin motor car that George VII and the Queen Mother did a tour of Canada in, a tour of the part of Canada in preparation for getting Canada to agree to come into World War II. Because, of course, even though Canada is technically a province of, is, all the coins and stuff all say, I guess there were still, the courts and stuff like that are all still, they call them come before the Queen. But by then, by the time that war broke out, Canada had a right to govern its own people. And so that's why they needed to come and convince Canada to join them in the war effort. And so this car, this very cool car, had been found, rescued, and totally restored by a man who called Alex, which is this kid's name, had him come out and look at it, and what his dream was to get it into the Royal Albert Museum in Alberta. But he didn't know how to go about doing that, or even, getting anybody to talk to him about it. And so, as it turns out, Alex was able to help him with that. And so he did a couple of videos about, about the guy featuring the car, and then another video with the car actually in the Albert Museum. So they went together and got to see the display, and then they got to see a tour of the cars that the museum has that are not on display, and that are actually in the background, in big warehouses, and are in various stages of restoration, or perhaps are restored but are just not being shown, or not being exhibited just then. So the McLaughlin is now on permanent loan to the museum, and so that's a feather. I thought that was a very nice thing for him to do. I guess a lot of the feedback that he gets is that he's Canadian, so they're just nice by nature. But he's enjoying some great success, and he's one of those that you can just tell he's genuine. He deserves every accolade he's getting. So, and I always like to see that. I like to see it when people who are genuinely talented, genuinely nice people actually get blessed with success. I happened to just start paying attention to his numbers the last couple of, probably the last 4 or 5 days. And so he was at 91,000 followers. And the next day he was at 95,000 followers. The day following that he was at 100,000 followers. By the following morning he was at 110,000 followers. So he's picking up traffic at about 10,000 followers a day, which is amazing. And I first heard about him on Dee Dee's channel, and so I was just delighted that she turned us on to him. And I've been watching Lori over at Color My World doing her color combinations with Prismacolors. And drawing my drawings, and I've got the next one is swimming around in my head right now, which means it's almost ready to be visualized on paper. So I'm looking forward to doing a bit of drawing next week, some more. And thank you to all of you who are purchasing the drawing that I posted yesterday. I appreciate that, no end. And, okay. Oops. Need to go with the burn green. Oops. For those of you that may be wondering why I don't sharpen these, it's because Inktense are 100% pigment in the core, well, as are most pencils, but I don't like to sharpen them until I absolutely have to, and then I sharpen them as minimally as I can get away with, so as not to lose any of the ink pigment. Couple reasons: they are fairly expensive, but B, you don't really need to, because you're just going to get them wet anyway. So a sharp line is not really that necessary. Sorry about that. I took a little break so that I could reheat my coffee. Whoops. And let's see, what else is going on? Anything good? I saw all kinds of things. I know that Kenny got a chance to visit with her granddaughter, and I know that I want to say Charlotte Kunkel, is that who got to visit with her? Who's, no, maybe somebody's granddaughter is just 6 months old now, and I think it was Charlotte, and that is so cool. I think that grandkids are the rewards that you guys get for having raised good kids. So I think that's wonderful. And I watched Sammy's part 9 on the hair. She's just so amazing. And of course I watched Deb and May, and last week's, or not last week's, but I watched the Friday, Shalene's Friday video about the tea with all the schedule updates and all of that kind of stuff. That is awfully nice of her to, to make note of all of the color alongs and stuff like that people do. Now this one was intended as these two, because the bird has already eaten those. So those were intended to be just sticks, because the bird already ate those, little piggy that he is. And now he's eyeing that one. King Bob. Mia Bear has named him King Bob. Not sure why, but... So this is King Bob. He is a Bohemian Waxwing. He is native to Northern Europe. Can be viewed in person in Norway. I just think that is so funny. Okay. And alrighty, now for the next branch. Now, since I did that first branch with the tan and then accidentally the baked earth, and I kind of liked it, I might as well just continue to do the same kind of thing here, only I am going to do the tan on this side. So move this up and out of my way so that I can sort of twist the book a little bit sideways so that I can get a nice line in here. And I am being very light-handed, just laying down a little color. Because this is going to be the lightest side of my tree. And then I'll go with a little bit, not much, of the baked earth. I just happen to love this color. It's kind of a light terracotta, light terracotta color. And I love terracotta. Back to the tan, which is the 1720. Only this time, yeah. Well, actually, I'm going to go up there. Doesn't really matter. I'm just more looking for some sort of changing up of the colors, because a tree is about a gajillion different colors. When you look at the bark of a tree, So I just want to make sure that it is sort of different colors. And then, if I take the oak, which is the 1730, and okay, so we're going to go on the underside here. Just like that. Excuse me. Okay, and go with that. And today is my best friend Carol Lynn's birthday. So I need to be sure, because I imagine this won't post up until Monday, I need to be sure that I give her a call today. So if you have somebody in your life whose birthday is coming up, you need to mark your calendar so that you remember to call them. That speaks to the strength of our friendship. She and I have forgotten each other's birthdays a few times over the years, and we're still best friends, so. It isn't so much that we forget, it's that we both got busy and it escaped us. But your true friends will forgive you, although it is no less painful. It's always nice when people do remember you. Okay. So as you can see, that kind of mushes those colors together pretty nicely, and makes for a nice sort of mottled looking branch. Probably could have added more leaves to this when I drew it, but I was really looking for the focus to be on the bird and not necessarily on the branches or the leaves. There we go. Okay, now let's see where we are. Turn that and come back out here. So this is where we are right now. And I think that next I want to finish working on the border here. And so I'm using tan, and I'm going to go ahead and unclip this one just so that I can have my checking the focus there, so that I can have my interior finished. I haven't decided yet if I want to do a background inside here or not. Can't really tell if that's in focus or not. I can tell if I get you closer. And that looks fairly okay. And this is the baked earth, which is the 1800. And the way that I did this before is I did these two interior layers, then let them dry, and then I added the chocolate on the outside. And I think that I might need to continue on that way, but let's try and see if we can get it to let us do it the other way by going ahead and putting in the dark chocolate now. Try it in this small section. And if it doesn't work, then I can do the rest of it the way I did the first part. And if it does work, well, then we've cut out a step, saving time and effort. Oops, wrong brush. So I'm going to start by just wetting the inside first, and then go to the outside. And I'm just working that in just a tiny bit. Oops. That's another reason to, now, in case you're wondering where I'm going with the, when I go over here, I'm just brushing off excess pigment from the water brush onto my paper towel. Now my friend Virginia has started to work with Derwent Inktense, and she does not like a water brush because she doesn't have as much control, she believes, over the flow of water. So she's using a wet paper towel and then dipping her brush on that because she believes it gives her better control. So however you are comfortable doing it is going to be the way for you. I personally like these water brushes. Mine don't leak. And so there's really no danger of me, unless I squeeze it right onto the paper, there's no danger of me getting a blob of water. Okay, so I'm going to have to let that part dry while, so I can wait to see how it turns out. So I guess while I'm doing that, I'll go back and do a few of these green guys over here. That's the one thing I do absolutely love, is there's always something that you can be doing. Okay, so once again, I've got the Ionian green, which is the darker of these two greens, which is the 1320, and the beach green, which is slightly lighter, which is the 1510. And so the beach green is the one that I use in the bottoms here. And I just, using a medium pressure, put a little color down. Just like that. And of course I am working in my book, Flowers and Flyers. I am working on one of the Songbird pages. This book, in addition to having some of my traditional symmetrical floral designs, also has a series of songbirds. Then there are some butterfly drawings. There are some butterflies, dragonflies. There is a cool bird, a paradise back there, and then I did one of an owl. It's in there. So there's a little something for every taste in this book. No people, but certainly lots of pretty birds to color. There's a scarlet tanager in a after some strawberries in a basket. And there is a walkthrough of this book. Well, there's several walkthroughs of it done by various channels, but I put the one that I created here in the description, along with where to get it as either a print book or as a PDF. You can always get all of my work either as print books or as individual pages or sets, as the case may be, in my Etsy shop. And they're all 300 DPI PDFs. So you can print them on any paper you like. And go with that. Oops. Got a little messy with that over there, but that's easy enough to correct. Sort of bringing these lighter and darker shades together. Okay. Okay, and sort of through the magic of editing, I have completed both the frame around the bird, and I did end up using this alternate method of putting it all down at once. And I have just continued on around the frame with the green, just like I was doing. I figured there's no reason to make you watch all that. The one thing that I did do is originally I think that I had done these leaves up here in a bit of a, I think I'd used hooker's green, and I went ahead and I changed it to the beach green, which is the 1510, and it's the same as the lighter shade out here. And I did just sort of take it directly off the pencil and put it there. Now the only real question is, what will I do in these spaces? And the answer is, I don't know yet. I am toying with the idea of doing these either as peridot colored gems, at which point in time I'd probably use the apple green to make a lighter gem, or I was thinking about using amber and making them amber stones. And I don't know yet what I want to do. I want to think about it for a day. So I may bring this back as a project piece to color on screen, or I may just color it and then show you the finished choices that I made. But at any rate, I do hope that you've had a chance to see and enjoy how I colored this Bohemian Waxwing. I think it's beautiful. The more I look at it, the more I like it. I hope you like it too. And until we meet again, please color something pretty. And if you have any questions at all, please leave them in the comments below. I did have one last thing I wanted to say. In part 1, there was a question mark, the part 1 of the live, before I had to do the restart, about what was the sound. Was it water running or something like that? And the answer to that was I had once again forgotten to switch over to my microphone on my camera, and so the sound was actually coming through my computer system, and the water running was actually the fan of the computer system, and so that is what you guys were hearing, and I do apologize for that. If you'll notice in the restart, it wasn't there because I had remembered to click the sound over to the right microphone. So that was that. Color something pretty. I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.